So Friday night, at the end of a successful, long, hard week, we are going to address some of the questions that I've not been able to answer directly over messages. So this is kind of, I'm going to try and do this again, as always, one hit, one run, no takes. So if I look like a fool, it's because I am a fool. Right, rep range. So there's a big question regarding rep range in hypertrophy and what is the bestest and most scientific way to gain muscle against the rep range. The answer to that is there isn't one. Reason being is because hypertrophy is effectively it's progressive workload. It's a way to adapt. It's to force muscle to adapt. So what may work at 6 to 8 for a period of time will then cease to work, and you may want to increase the volume of reps that you do, or you may want to increase the volume of sets that you do for a particular muscle group. However, that does not mean that you want to do that in the same session. So for example, you may want to retain an exercise between 6 to 8 reps all the time. Let's pick a hack squat, for example, and you do that on a Monday, okay? And on a Monday, but what you do is you don't increase the reps, you increase the load for those reps. So the work within that rep range has increased, and therefore that rep count still counts as hypertrophy range. But you may be increasing your reps later on in the week for another quad exercise that may be a seated leg raise, or it may be lunges, where the load that you're lifting is lighter, but you're working it for longer. So really is the adaptation of work, resistance over time, over effort, okay? So on average, okay, you could argue that if you was to hit a rep range between 6 to 8, you're in hypertrophy. Yes, you are. But you could also argue that if you're in a 25 to 45 reps and you're failing and you're taking your muscle to fatigue, then you are still in hypertrophy range because you're providing adaptation. The problem with that is that I personally think it's hard to stay focused for 45 reps, and it's hard to get focus over a long session where the first 20 reps are not really challenging you. So unless you're looking for endurance, or you're looking for cardiovascularity or that type of stuff, then perhaps I will try and aim my exercises between 6, 12, maybe 15, and throw in the odd, big round, drop round, something like that. So I would say a variety, but the most important thing is that the reps do take you to a point of fatigue and stress. Okay, so that's the key. All right, that is the key. Now, here's an interesting question. The strength phase, the power phase, the phase where you lift the biggest weight going on the planet, is that part of hypertrophy? Well, no, it's not. Being strong doesn't necessarily relate to being big. However, there is an argument that you could say that if you have a short power phase, in other words, you're trying to increase your strength and trying to increase your mechanical stress on the body, you can become better at the hypertrophy range later on because you can sustain more stress. But on its own, for a long period of time, it's not proven, okay, that you need that real power strength period in order to grow, okay? However, maybe for a period of time, it might have a benefit, but I'm going to leave that to the discretion of each individual coach that coaches each person, because there is also psychological and fun element to that may induce motivation to carry on training and doing cool things. But as per se, the strength phase does not necessarily increase muscle mass. They call it the bro split against the doing push and pull or antagonistic muscles together type of thing. Which one's better? I would say, to be honest with you, things like push, pull, antagonistic type muscle, do multiple muscles in a session, it's probably more effective long term. And the more advanced you get, and I think that's because you're able to train a muscle multiple times in the week. So you're able to send a signal to grow and to increase the protein synthesis more times in the week. Of course, you are reducing the volume that you do for that muscle in that session, but over the week, that muscle would have worked possibly a little bit harder and at a higher rate because you've kept it fresh. So maybe you've done 8 to 12 sets one day, 6 to 8 sets another day, and maybe 5 sets another day. So actually probably you've worked it maybe a little bit longer, because if you work shoulders for an hour and a half, the last set, it's probably not going to be as good as your first set. However, that's not to say it doesn't work, okay? Because for some people, the rest period it's quite good. So I would say probably, I'm going to throw it out there and I'm going to say, look, if I was a beginner or somebody who, you know, want to spend more time in a muscle group, or somebody, you know, like a more, yeah, then probably would go more for a bro split and allow the muscle to recover a little bit more. But I think if you're looking to maximize gains, you probably want to work muscles a little bit more in the week and help the protein synthesis if you can recover fast enough. But again, that is down to the individual. Now, the other question is training to failure versus reps in reserve. Which one do you grow more? You grow with both, okay? The difference is that with failure, the recovery time actually takes about 24 hours longer than if you don't train with failure. However, if you're generating stimulus, okay, hypertrophy stimulus, then and providing adaptation, in other words, your rep to failure increases, in other words, you're taking it higher and higher, or reps in reserve, you're taking higher and higher, you're still going to grow. The thing that is interesting is the dividend that you get back from going to failure. It's marginal. Okay, so if you're looking for the most edge, then perhaps, you know, you want to go to failure as many times as possible, but the dividend back may only be 10 to 15% more than if you didn't do it, and perhaps your recovery rate would be faster anyway. So long term, you know, you might be there and thereabouts, but the quality of the reps, the workload of the reps, all those sort of things make a massive difference. So exercise selection, that's the next question. How do you grow best with what exercise? We've had this many times, and the answer to that is don't marry a particular exercise. The body has to, mechanically you can do so many things. For example, squat, not everybody can do it mechanically. I'm not saying that, I never say don't do it, but I'm saying perhaps, you know, if you're not getting the best movement, if you're not getting the best contraction, if you're not getting the best feedback from that particular exercise, you've got to change. So you have to listen to your body. There is enough movement and enough selection of exercise to be able to stimulate growth. So, but what I will say is that the form of the exercise counts more than the selection of the exercise. So if what you're doing is 100% right, then you're definitely going to gain over just picking an exercise because it's pronounced to be good if you're doing that badly. Oh, this is a cool one. And the last one, because we're approaching the 10-minute mark, which is when I'm sweating, am I burning more fat? No, you're not. You're losing water and fluid and possibly minerals and salt. So your body weight will go down and you will look leaner because you lost a ton of water. But no, the fat is lost through oxidation of energy. Actually, you're probably going to lose more fat by being cold and trying to generate heat. So, you know, no, this is just a no. Okay, so, but, you know, it is an indication sometimes of hard work, but also sometimes hormone can play a part in this. You know, some people are generally do sweat more on the same level. Doesn't mean that they're working any harder, doesn't mean they're burning more fat than you. It just means that, you know, they're just perspirating more, and that's the way they are. And therefore they probably need to account for the water loss and the salt loss, or the mineral losses. So thank you very much, and happy Friday.